Agency Rosatom says the accident happened during a rocket test on a sea platform with fuel catching fire, causing the device to detonate. 2 days later, a spike in radiation levels was reported. Authorities have conceded the accident involved nuclear materials. Well, let's get more on this story. I'm joined by nuclear engineering consultant Tom Davis from Oxford. Tom, great to talk to you. This is such an intriguing story, much because so much of it is shrouded in mystery. What do we know about what actually happened?
Thank you, Beverly, for the invite onto your programme. So yes, to start off with, on August the 8th, about 6 a.m. local time in northwestern Russia, there was an explosion on a sea platform where 5 nuclear engineers did die, but also there was a spike in radiation measured in a nearby town. And if you cast your mind back to March 2018, President Putin announced that they are developing or have developed a nuclear-powered cruise missile. So with all this in context, it very much looks like they were testing a device which is very similar to a nuclear-powered cruise missile, which went wrong.
We'll talk about the technology in just a moment, but then, of course, they said that radiation levels hadn't changed. We now understand what they're up to 20 times the level that they should be.
Yes, this is correct if we believe the Russian media who are publishing the 20 times the background. So with radiation levels, it's all about context. So 20 times the background radiation level in general is about 2 microsieverts per hour, which is a unit of radiation dose. To provide us a context, if you catch a flight from New York to London, you would receive about the exact same amount of radiation dose which was recorded in the town nearby the accident. So in this in mind, it doesn't pose any health worries for the radiation recorded, and it decreased to background levels to in about 2 to 4 hours time.
I guess with Chernobyl so topical at the moment because of the recently made mini-series, there are the concerns that perhaps Russian authorities aren't being as frank and forthright about what happened as they should be.
Yes, I have read a lot of stories conflating it to be like a mini Chernobyl style. And from the technology, it is nothing like Chernobyl. And the radiation recorded in the nearby town is on the no, you cannot compare it to Chernobyl. In terms of the secrecy and how they're releasing information, that does pose a worry in terms of what's been, because there's a lot of conflict between their statements they've made.
Tom, let's come back to now the development of these weapons. They are not nuclear missiles, they are nuclear-propelled missiles, something that the US decided to abandon. Why is Russia persisting with them?
Correct. It is very, very important to make the distinction that these missiles the ones being developed currently do not carry nuclear weapons, and the radiation fallout we have been reading about is from the nuclear propulsion system. You are correct that the US did start to develop these in the 1960s, mid-1960s. The program was closed down, and also did the Soviet Union at the same time. However, their program lasted much longer. The technical challenges to actually put a nuclear reactor on a missile with confined space, with minimized amount of shielding, and to reliably allow that to power such a missile for an indefinite period of time is actually extremely difficult. And as of yet, we have not been able to do it.
And why would they want to? What would be the purpose? Is it's the nuclear energy is just acting as a propulsion, really, not as a weapon of war. The missile, of course, would be.
Correct.
Yes, yes.
So you're right. The reactor, what it does is it will suck in the air from the atmosphere, which will heat up through the reactor core, and then it will be expelled out the rear, which propels the missile forward. And that's the only role it actually plays. But the lifetime of that energy source is basically unlimited in context of a cruise missile. So the reason why Russia are pursuing this is because you could technically have a cruise missile if it was powered by a nuclear reactor successfully. It could remain in the atmosphere for an indefinite period of time.
It's been
a deterrent.
Indeed, it's been a very costly accident in terms of life. Five dead, and all of them nuclear scientists.
Yes, correct. And from what the scientists themselves, they were very decorated in their field. They were clearly very expert. They had a lot of expertise over the last 20 to 40 years. So it's a major loss to the Russians themselves as well.
Now, Sarov, where the scientists have been buried, is a closed city, and some of the cities around where this has been developed are also closed or restricted. Are these cities sort of a legacy of the former Soviet Union?
They were developed in the Soviet Union, and they are a legacy, yes, but they're still today used as developing sites where they developed certain nuclear technologies. So it doesn't surprise me how they have buried those scientists themselves within that region, because most likely they would have worked there over their career, providing a lot of engineering sort of development to the country. So, I'm not an expert in Russian culture, but it'd be a way of honouring their sort of like contribution to the country.
Indeed, but would be quite concerning in terms of the secrecy that continues to go on with the development of nuclear-powered weapons.
Yes, it is a major concern, not knowing what these missiles are, what they're capable of. And also it dates back to the 60s where the challenges faced, being so secret, which makes sense to be secret anyway because of the military aspect of them. But it's the accidents which can cause a lot of public interest on, what actually went on. Is it a danger to the people? Etc.
Exactly. Tom, really fascinating stuff. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Beverly. Thank you.
Bye-bye now. Well, an ABC investigation has uncovered evidence of direct links between 3 Australian politicians and a Hong Kong-based organisation connected to the Chinese Communist Party. China experts say the organisation is part of Beijing's strategy to expand its influence in foreign countries. Dan Oakes with the story.
Hong Kong's World Trade United Foundation, or WTUF, says it's dedicated to free trade and charitable causes. But experts say it's really part of the Chinese Communist Party's United Front activities.
You can see the clear connection with the Chinese United Front operation.
United Front is China's multi-billion-dollar strategy to influence people at home and abroad, backed at the highest level by President Xi Jinping himself.
It's a policy to isolate, marginalise primary enemy.
The ABC has discovered 3 Australian politicians are linked to the WTUF. Gladys Liu, the new Liberal member for Chisholm, was made an honorary chairman by WTUF. So was her Labor opponent at the recent federal election, Jennifer Yang. Both women were appointed in 2014. And Victorian MP Bruce Atkinson, who was president of Victoria's Upper House and is widely promoted by WTUF in China. The Chinese Communist Party uses supposedly independent organisations to do the work of United Front. If Australian politicians have links to United Front outfits like WTUF, it raises the question, should voters have a right to know?
I think there is a gap here when it comes to this type of disclosure, and both when people are standing for Parliament, but certainly when they're in Parliament, we should make it clear that honorary and other positions that might give rise to actual or perceptions of influence should be disclosed.
Gladys Liu told the ABC she joined WTUF for no other reason than to promote Australia-Hong Kong trade links and resigned around 3 years ago. Bruce Atkinson declined an interview, but the leader of Victoria's opposition had his back.
Bruce is a great Victorian, he's a great Australian, he's a great Liberal. He will always put the interests of Victoria, Australia and the Liberal Party before China or the Communist Party, I can assure you of that.
Mr Atkinson and Ms Yang insist they only ever held honorary positions with WTUF. Ms Yang said she joined because of the group's promotion of charities. Dan Oakes, ABC News, Melbourne.
The Tasmanian Premier has backed calls for an investigation into a social media post by a locally based Chinese group. The Tasmanian Council for the Promotion of Peaceful Reunification of China shared a post on the Chinese social media platform WeChat. It appears to suggest pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong should be punished. Greens leader Cassie O'Connor has written to the Police Commissioner urging an investigation into the potential incitement of violence. Will Hodgman hasn't seen the post but says it should be investigated.
Clearly it is important that anyone using social media needs to do so in a way that does not incite anything underwater unsavoury in our community, so those matters need to be properly investigated.
The group's leader, Master Wang, says the post contains no suggestion of violence. Well, her friends called her Mickey and said she was a true delight. 24-year-old Michaela Dunn loved life and had a lot to live for. But a chance encounter in the Sydney CBD yesterday brought it all to a brutal end. Police are still to interview the man who allegedly killed her during a stabbing rampage.
Snoopy. Like most young women, Michaela Dunn was enjoying all the joys life has to offer. The 24-year-old spent her last few months travelling the world, but her thirst for adventure was cut short during a stabbing rampage in the city. Childhood friends took to social media to express their loss. Mickey was like my baby sister. I cannot describe how sad and broken I am at this moment. I love this kid. She was incredible. And there was an apology from the family of her alleged killer.
I want to say I'm really sorry, no one should have, because she was defenseless.
Michaela Dunn had been using an apartment in this building to earn a living as a sex worker. Her appointment with this man resulted in the worst possible outcome. Now outside the building, strangers pay their respects.
My boss at work should be watching this. Just noted that there's nothing there, and I think that's a Sydney-sider. I just wanted to pay my respect.
Armed with a kitchen knife, 20-year-old Mert Ney is accused of killing her before making a run for it. Police say he then stabbed another woman while she was walking towards Darling Harbour. V. Morgana saw it all but was too scared to show his face.
I heard an unusual noise, like a scream. I turned around and saw a guy with a little face mask jumping on top of cars, and then he approached the couple from behind and plunged a knife into the lady's back.
V. Morgana was among a group of men who helped bring Mert Ney to the ground. He captured the moment police took over. His pictures now form part of the ongoing investigation, which resulted in raids on the alleged killer's home at Mariong in Western Sydney.
The Counter-Terrorist Committee came together again to assess all the information and intelligence that we gleaned overnight, and the matter is still determined not to be a terrorist incident.
But it's an incident that has robbed an innocent woman of a bright future. Mark Reddy, ABC News, Sydney.
Malaysian police are due to give a press